Welcome back to Classic Nostalgia Shows. I'm John, and today, Annie and I are diving deep into a topic that truly fuels the imagination. Those groundbreaking, yet often overlooked, sci-fi shows that were just, well, light years ahead of their time.
Light years indeed, John. It's wild to think about. We're talking about a time long before Star Trek or Star Wars, before streaming gave us endless sci-fi sagas. These creators were literally building new worlds with sometimes shoestring budgets, but incredible vision.
Exactly. When television was still in its infancy, late 40s, early 50s, most programming was pretty safe. Westerns, sitcoms, variety shows. Science fiction was seen as a huge gamble. It was expensive, special effects were a nightmare to pull off live on camera. But the public was hungry for it.
They really were. You had the Cold War, the space race heating up, atomic technology making headlines, and those incessant flying saucer reports. People were looking to the stars, and producers quickly realized sci-fi offered something completely unique, a chance to imagine tomorrow, today.
And that hunger led to some truly pioneering efforts. One of the earliest, and surprisingly, one of the biggest successes, arrived in 1949. Captain Video and his Video Rangers. Now that title sounds pretty quaint by modern standards, but at the time, it was revolutionary.
Oh, Captain Video! I love hearing about that one. Broadcast live, multiple nights a week. Can you even imagine the pressure? Captain Video defending Earth against galactic villains. And the budgets, they were laughably small, right?
Beyond small, Annie. Props were often assembled from everyday household objects. Old radios became futuristic control panels, kitchen utensils were spaceship equipment. But here's the kicker. Audiences, especially kids, didn't care. They rushed home to watch. Their imaginations filled in all the blanks.
That's the magic of it, isn't it? It just goes to show that vision and imagination can trump budget any day. Without Captain Video, you have to wonder if shows like Star Trek would have even found a footing later on. It definitely paved the way.
Absolutely. And speaking of inspiring young minds, if you grew up in the early 1950s, another name would definitely be top of mind. Tom Corbett, Space Cadet. This show was also a massive hit, riding that wave of excitement around America's growing interest in space exploration.
Tom Corbett was fantastic because it wasn't just about adventure, though it had plenty of that. It really treated science with respect. They talked about astronomy, navigation, rocket technology. Kids were learning about space travel years before anyone had actually gone into orbit.
Think about that impact. Many engineers and scientists from that era later admitted that these early programs, like Tom Corbett, were what sparked their lifelong interest in space. It wasn't just entertainment, it was literally a career path for some.
It's incredible. As television matured, science fiction really started to evolve too. It wasn't just about fighting monsters anymore, though we love a good monster. Writers began asking those deeper, more philosophical questions.
Right. Could technology become dangerous? What if nuclear war happened? How would aliens see us? Could robots actually think? Sci-fi became a vehicle for exploring existential questions, and one series above all others proved just how powerful television could be for these bigger ideas.
And that, of course, is the Twilight Zone. It's hardly forgotten today, thank goodness, but you can't talk about groundbreaking sci-fi without Rod Serling's masterpiece. When it premiered in 1959, it absolutely transformed television.
It truly did. Each episode was a self-contained story. Ordinary people thrust into extraordinary circumstances. Time travel, aliens, robots, parallel worlds, apocalyptic futures, and committed them to problem you met back.
But the sci-fi was always a lens. It was about human nature.
Exactly. It explored fear, greed, loneliness, prejudice, hope. And what's wild is how many of those episodes still resonate today. It's like they predicted modern prestige television decades before it even existed.
Definitely. It showed that TV could be smart and thought-provoking.
And on the flip side of Twilight Zone's fantastical approach, there was another remarkable, often overlooked series that debuted in 1959, Men into Space. This one took a very different tack.
Men into Space. That's such a great example of a show ahead of its time for its realism. No flashy monsters or alien empires here, Just genuine engineering challenges, space stations, moon missions, rocket launches. It was all about scientific problem solving.
And watching it today, it's genuinely astonishing how accurately many of its predictions resembled real space exploration just a few years later. The show proved that sci-fi didn't always need to be fantastical. Sometimes reality itself, or at least a highly plausible future, was exciting enough.
It really broadened the definition of what sci-fi on TV could be. And speaking of broadening definitions, we also have to talk about One Step Beyond. While not traditional sci-fi in the sense of spaceships and aliens, it certainly tapped into that unknown speculative element.
That's true. One Step Beyond explored unexplained mysteries, premonitions, psychic experiences, and supernatural events, supposedly inspired by real reports. Its documentary style made every episode feel incredibly believable, which was unsettling in the best way.
Yeah, it wasn't just entertainment. It left audiences genuinely wondering, what if this actually happened? That psychological what-if approach influenced countless series later on, setting a different kind of stage for sci-fi's evolution.
Absolutely. And as we moved into the 1960s, television science fiction really started to embrace darker, more intelligent, more ambitious themes. The Outer Limits is a prime example of this shift.
Oh, The Outer Limits. That show challenged audiences with stories about alien contact, artificial intelligence, mind control, ethical dilemmas. And that opening narration, there is nothing wrong with your television set, it's just legendary.
It gave me chills as a kid, and it trusted its viewers. It assumed audiences could handle complex ideas, not just simple good versus evil narratives. Many modern sci-fi writers still cite it as a massive inspiration, and you can see why.
It set a very high bar for intellectual sci-fi. But not all 60s sci-fi was so serious. In 1965, a show premiered that beautifully blended adventure, humor, and imaginative storytelling, Lost in Space.
Lost in Space. The Robinson family became television's first great spacefaring family. Kids loved Robot, adults appreciated the optimism. It might be remembered today, but it often doesn't get enough credit for its groundbreaking approach.
I agree. It really presented space exploration as exciting and adventurous, rather than terrifying or purely scientific. It captured that sense of wonder and family connection in the vast unknown, and that influenced generations of young viewers.
Definitely. And speaking of imaginative storytelling, we have to talk about the master of spectacular adventure television, Irwin Allen. He was a powerhouse, and among his greatest achievements was Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea.
Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea was epic. That futuristic submarine, the Seaview, encountering underwater civilizations, sea monsters, alien visitors, scientific experiments gone wrong. It was such a wild mix of military adventure and imaginative science fiction.
And for its time, the production values were genuinely remarkable. He wasn't afraid to go big. Another Irwin Allen creation that truly showcases a concept ahead of its time was the time tunnel.
The time tunnel. Oh, I loved the premise of that show. Two scientists trapped, traveling throughout history, landing somewhere different in every episode. Ancient civilizations, the Titanic, the American West, even future worlds. That concept resembles so many modern sci-fi series, yet it premiered nearly 60 years ago.
It really highlights how innovative Allen was. Even if the show only lasted one season, its influence on time travel narratives is surprisingly strong. And his imagination didn't stop there. How about Land of the Giants?
Land of the Giants. Imagine shrinking an entire spacecraft and crashing onto a planet where everything and everyone is 12 times larger. The visual effects alone for that must have required enormous creativity back then.
Absolutely. Oversized furniture, gigantic telephones, massive household objects making everyday life extraordinary. It's another example of how imagination often mattered more than expensive technology or cutting-edge CGI, which didn't even exist then.
It's true. And as we head into the 1970s, there's one particularly overlooked gem that deserves a huge shout-out. UFO, created in Britain.
UFO. Yes, that show was incredible. It combined realistic military operations with alien invasion stories, but its production design was just unbelievably futuristic. Many of the costumes and vehicles still appear surprisingly modern even today.
It did, and it treated its characters with such seriousness. They weren't superheroes, they were professionals facing impossible situations. Many sci-fi fans now consider UFO one of the most underrated series ever produced, and I totally agree.
It absolutely is. So we've talked about a lot of shows, some that lasted only one season, others that became classics. But together, they really accomplished something extraordinary, didn't they?
Oh, without a doubt. They inspired imagination, they encouraged scientific curiosity, they introduced generations of young viewers to astronomy, engineering, exploration, and simply possibility. That's a huge legacy right there.
It really is. Think about how many scientists, astronauts, engineers, and even filmmakers have credited these classic science fiction shows for sparking their dreams. That's an impact you can't quantify.
And looking back, it's just amazing how many of their predictions actually came true. Video communication, artificial intelligence, tablet computers, space stations, satellite communication, portable electronic devices, robotics. They really did glimpse the future.
While not always accurate, these early television creators imagined futures surprisingly similar to our own. But their greatest achievement wasn't just predicting technology. It was inspiring people to build it, to make those imagined futures a reality.
Exactly. So these forgotten and sometimes celebrated sci-fi series from television's early decades truly deserve to be remembered. They were created with limited budgets, simple special effects, but just boundless imagination.
Their creators weren't just entertaining audiences. They were inviting us to dream, to ask questions, to imagine tomorrow. Without these pioneering series, many of today's greatest science fiction films and television shows might never have existed.
So the next time you stumble upon one of these forgotten classics, take a moment to really appreciate what it accomplished, not just as entertainment, but as a genuine glimpse into humanity's endless curiosity about the future.
Well said, Annie. Thank you for joining us for another journey through classic entertainment history on Classic Nostalgia Shows. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
And join us next week as we continue to celebrate those unforgettable movies, TV shows, actors, and hidden gems that keep inspiring us. Until then, keep celebrating the classics, keep exploring the unknown, and remember,
Sometimes the greatest journeys begin with imagination.